Good morning, it's the 2nd of December. I'm Alec Hogg, and here's the rational perspective. Well, this morning it's a story that's been 7 years in the making. In 2007, I received a tip-off that an organization called Fidentia, which we'd been looking into unsuccessfully, I must have had started to unravel. Last night, we got news that the Supreme Court of Appeal has overturned a very light sentencing on the mastermind behind the man behind that story, J. Arthur Brown, and his company Fidentia. Initially, the court action saw him being found guilty on 2 counts of fraud and receiving little more than a slap on the wrist. The public was outraged given what had happened in this case, and the Financial Services Board took it further. And the result of the Supreme Court of Appeal yesterday was that J. Arthur Brown is going to jail for 15 years. So what is this story? J. Arthur Brown's a fellow from Port Elizabeth who spent a couple of years unsuccessfully trying to get a BCom degree at the University of Port Elizabeth. That, of course, did not deter him from claiming that he'd passed that degree. He somehow found a way of getting trustees of pension funds to give over the assets in these funds to his organization, which he called Fidentia. He had a veneer of respectability created by hiring sports stars, including Eric Simons, the former Springbok cricket coach, Louis Kuhn, who was very close to him, earning 200,000 Rand a month, Dave Callahan, who was caught up in it unbeknown to what exactly was going on, and a Springbok bowler called Merrick Pringle, who was so incensed at our disclosures about the Fidentia saga that he threatened to sue us. And in fact, it took some of his friends later to explain to him that he'd been caught up in something that he wasn't sure, we didn't know the background to, before he withdrew those rather or potentially damaging claims. But that was J. Arthur Brown's modus operandi. Put people around you who make you look respectable. Find weak trustees of pension funds. Get them to move the assets across to you. And then bribe them so that they turn their heads the other way. A good example was the one that was mentioned in court papers of a pension fund that had 100 million Rand. It was a small beer by J. Arthur Brown's standards. He later went and got a pension fund of 1.1 billion Rand. But the trustee of this pension fund was told to look elsewhere when Brown took the money, and instead of investing it in money market instruments in one of the big 4 banks, as was prescribed, he invested that money in a few holiday homes for himself, luxury vehicles for himself and his cronies, and also by buying a spa which was uncompleted for way over the realistic market price, and getting involved in some companies in Johannesburg, including Software Futures, which was a division of MGX, which he massively overpaid for, similarly with a unit trust operation that he bought from M Cubed. All of this tells us a lot, but you need to go into the saga to unpack exactly who J. Arthur Brown was and how he managed to get away with as much as he did. But the rational way of unpacking all of this is that when people are crooked, they will find others who are prepared to turn a blind eye, to be less than ethical, to stand to one side as evil is allowed to perpetrate its misdeeds. It's a lesson to all of us. None of us are likely, or hopefully very few who are watching this video, are likely to become J. Arthur Browns. But going through red robots, playing on your cell phone while you're driving, turning a blind eye as others break the law, is a start to what Russell Loebscher, the former CEO of the JSE, said, drift. And eventually you drift so far that you can end up doing what this devious human being decided to do. He's going to jail for 15 years. For the rest of us, it's often just our conscience. This has been the rational perspective.